Yes, you are now listening to the sounds. Sports Reports is ordered. We ain't going nowhere. We fighting for our spot like Dan Snyder. Mr. Logical. 2-5. We're here in America tonight. Getting stuff off our chest as usual. We're going to talk about the NBA Cup. I think that's what we're calling it, the in-season tournament.
NBA Cup.
Spoiler alert, I don't like it. And then we're going to talk about who could possibly win Rookie of the Year if you take away Victor Wembanyama. You know, so I've been practicing that all day, Wembanyama. You know what I'm saying? But Mr. Logical.
Yeah.
What is the word?
Listen, we're going to start switching things up. First things first, I want to give a shout out to my friend's brand, Esmogano brand, based out of South Jersey. We were having a conversation a couple weeks ago. I was like, yo, man, even haters leave hobbies. So that's what I'm wearing today. I will put a link in the video description, link you to his Instagram. Maybe you can, shout out my guy and get a shirt made or anything made like that. But black owned brand, South Jersey, another veteran owned company. So similar to ours. He just retired a couple weeks ago. So we're going to celebrate that in a few weeks. So yeah, just, any opportunity you get to support your friends, man, is free. So if you have a platform and you have some friends that are doing some things, support them. So that's what we're doing here. But yeah.
Yes, sir.
So, Esmogano brand with linked in the description.
And I want to give a shout out to Real Talk with Ray Jean. Our guy Ray Jean Lewis.
Shout out.
Podcast just got picked up nationally. So, doing big things. Great perspective, not just sports, a little bit of society, little bit of politics. He ran for Senate a little while ago. So, shout out to Ray Jean doing big things, saying repping it up. Real Sports 365 in the house. So
shout out.
So get it off my chest. And boy, oh boy, is there some things to get off our chest this week.
Yo, I'm starting it off like this. Trigger fingers turn to Twitter fingers. I'm sick of it, man. Y'all need to stay off Twitter. First of all, the word tweet, it sounds childish. So if you're in an argument, you're like, yo, he tweeted at me. It's just like it just sounds so just fraudulent and just weak. And it's like, why are you doing that? Like, why are you engaging that? So I'm talking to Asante Samuel, CJ Gardner-Johnson. Y'all even got Tony Dungy involved. I mean, it's just like Sauce Gardner's like, yo, I'm just trying to do my thing. And then you got the whole, they talk about, because the market you play in, and that's why I'm like, yo, can the guy just be good? Can you compete? Like, you can compete with a guy and think you're better than him. You don't have to go at him on Twitter and be like, I think so-and-so is better than you. It's like, who cares? One dude's like, I'm first team all defense as a rookie. I'm shutting things down. Sauce Gardner was dope in Cincinnati. I'm just sick of these guys getting in the NFL. And CJ, like, yo, he need to stay off of Twitter in general because you were complaining about the field conditions in the Super Bowl like y'all won up 10 points. Like, nobody slipped on them little zig routes that Kansas City hit you with. I mean, Patrick Mahomes only threw for like 200 yards. Maybe if y'all were better defensively, you would have won that game. So just stay off of Twitter. Stop beefing because it's not beef. It's not even entertaining. It's because it doesn't sound smart. You can't type tough. You can't type tough with your thumbs and like send it out. Like, it's just not a thing that happens. And I remember like when he played for the Saints and he went snatch the dudes, like that whole kerfuffle. It's just like, yo, cut it out. Just cut out the nonsense with the Twitter. Just for the love of God. Like Herm Edwards said, type it out. Don't press send. Because you just sound so stupid. And then when you got to get schooled by Tony Dungy, Asante Samuel, it's like, yo, you should have just stayed out of it. Just stay out of it. You got your rings, you got your championships, you got your opportunities, you guys got your checks, you got your houses, you got the things that you earned through being world-class athletes. why are you beefing like 17-year-old girls on the internet, sending out tweets to each other like, yo, cut the cat, man. Just play football.
You know what I'm saying? He don't need two gats to go to sleep. You know what I'm saying? Like Asante Samuel had the drink in him going back to back.
Ridiculous, man.
Yo, so I was thinking about this. I did a 2-5 daily a couple days ago talking about Rand Paul and his comment about NIL, like congressional hearing about golf and live merging. And somehow that turned into antitrust and NIL, and we're going to have rap stars instead of basketball stars. And then there were people out here defending him like there was nothing racial about what he said. Like he didn't say, instead of athletes, we're going to have celebrities, or these athletes are going to be bigger than the sport. He specifically said, instead of basketball stars, we're going to have rap stars. So as egregious as that was, let me talk to my guy, Danny Kanell, for a second. Florida State legend himself, love him. Cover 3 podcast, shout out, one of my favorite college football podcasts out there. So nobody should be under a rock to not know that Pat Fitzgerald just got fired from Northwestern after allegations of hazing and some racial bias, if you will. And so all I keep hearing from certain people, including Mr. Kanell, I even heard a little bit from Dan Patrick, was Pat Fitzgerald is such a good guy. No one has ever said a bad thing about him. Ain't nobody say nothing crazy about R. Kelly either. You know what I mean? Like sometimes people that have the appearance of doing good condone bad things. And I'm not necessarily accusing Pat Fitzgerald of condoning it, but this is what I'll say to get it off my chest. All I hear about football coaches is they sleep in their office. They work 20 hours a day. They don't never spend time with their family because they can't. They're technicians and strategists that sit around devising plans, and they know everything that's going on in their program. But yet, somehow, he didn't know that dudes was naked low crawling in the locker room. He didn't know that dudes was getting dry humped on by guys wearing purge masks in the locker room. Now, does a coach know everything that's going on? No. I don't know everything my kids are doing when they're at school. So I'm not going to use that whole like, he's got to know. But somebody got to know. He's got assistant coaches. He's got recruiting analysts. And guess what? By the way, his son is on the team. So I can't buy that he knew nothing. Now, with that being said, Northwestern, looking real Ray Rice out here, because the story came out. We got the word that it was going to be a 2-week suspension. Besides the fact that it's the middle of July, media day hasn't even happened yet. Season ain't start yet. I don't know what kind of suspension that is. Like he would probably love to sit at home right now, But once the story got some steam, ESPN and all the big wigs started picking up on it, he got fired the next day. So what changed between when we knew little versus when the details became public? And by the way, last thing, they didn't fire one assistant. Just him. So now he's after his $42 million because they fired him for cause. But, he's owed $42 million over the lifetime of the 10 years that he signed for this contract. So he coming for that money. So
and they're going to have to pay him.
We'll see how this plays out, But there you go. Get it off my chest. So, Mr. Logical, I've been sitting up here all week watching Rocky. You know what I'm saying? Watching Rocky run up the steps. Watching him give Apollo Creed that work. And then Adam Silver came out. We got the details finally of the NBA in-season tournament. I don't even know. Speechless. What you got?
The NBA, I think they're trying to make a lot of decisions based off of viewership. NBA Finals viewership. People feel like it's been less and less every year. Like the Bucks Suns final was not that, as far as the Nielsen ratings, didn't have that many fans per game or the audience. The Super Bowl always has this grand audience, and it's not wise for any sport to compare their championship games or rounds or televised events with the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl, in and of itself, is a football game, a global event disguised as a football game. So that's gonna trump all your numbers every year. It's never gonna go down because it's a one and done. Anything can happen. You get asked the 18-1 Patriots, why the Super Bowl is important and how like of a grand scale that's on. If you're in the NBA, you can't expect those kind of numbers. And I want to say, I want to give credit to a guy. I believe his name was Clay Travis, and what he said was the NBA embraced with this quote unquote woke politics. I don't like the phrase woke politics, but I get what he means. I'm not one of these people who can't understand. Like, listen, I get what you're trying to say. I get what you mean, whatever the case may be. But he's saying that the NBA, the fact that they took on the woke politics and the Black Lives Matter, but I'm like, the NFL did the same thing. So that has nothing to do with the viewership of the NBA finals. It's just the NBA stars aren't as captivating, and then your big stars don't play as much. Like we haven't had a Durant LeBron matchup. I think we've had one in the last 4 years, like a regular season LeBron versus Durant, like Durant's playing, or Embiid when he should have played against Jokic. So what you have is just you have to manufacture entertainment, and that's what they came up with this tournament. The fact that they're trying to go global, I think it kins itself to the European and the other soccer tours, like the CONCACAF Cups going on right now, the United States and Canada and like Ecuador, like this Western hemisphere. Then you have the Premier Leagues and all these other leagues, all these other leagues in Europe that do the soccer thing where they have these mid-season tournaments, and it just drives up the entertainment, the one and done aspect of it, the single elimination, the fact that there's a trophy on the line and something else, another talking point. So I get it from that aspect. I don't know how it's going to pan out, and like I say, you'll get into some of the numbers, but I don't know how it's going to pan out because are people going to use that opportunity to really go out there and show they want to win this cup, or they're going to be like, you know what, I'm just going to take December 7th through the 9th off and just enjoy like an early Christmas break by just not caring if you make it to the championship round.
Well, so of course, the NBA runs into the issue of the season starting right at the peak of the NFL playoff race, and then of course, you got college football going on as well. So you're already in an uphill battle. I'm all about innovation, trying something new. I'm not a big fan of the play in. It's had its moments, but overall, I just don't have a need for it myself.
I
You
like the
know,
plan.
but I understand how the play-in could be entertaining. Especially when you had two play-in teams this year go to the conference finals at the very least. One made the finals. So from that standpoint, the play-in worked this year. My the issue with the play-in was just if I finish 5-6 games ahead of you, you shouldn't have the same chance to make the playoff that I do. Because what's the point of the regular season? But with this tournament, I'm looking at it from the standpoint of, as you mentioned, these different tournaments like the Champions League. But the reason that the Champions League is so exciting is because you have different regions of the world involved. You have teams from Argentina playing against Real Madrid. You have your English Premier League teams like Liverpool playing against, somebody from Germany that they don't regularly see because most of the Premier League and Bundesliga and leagues like that play within their countries. So this is a chance for a European/world tournament. You got the Europa League. So when I was looking at this, and I brought up Rocky because my thought was, why not have the G League champion participate in this? Why not have some European teams like Real Madrid, who's not just a soccer team, Real Madrid play in this tournament? we've been talking about the influx of international players coming over to the NBA. Your Lucas, Embiid is international, Giannis, so on and so forth. Are the international players taking over? You got SGA from Canada, Jamal Murray, so on and so forth. So I believe that, and this is the first year of it.
Shout out to
So
Tristan Thompson.
yeah, him too. So this is like the first year of it. So maybe this is something that could potentially happen in the future. But this is just me thinking out loud, thinking outside the box of it doesn't have to be an NBA exclusive tournament. It could be a mini FIBA, for example, and then that way you get more buy-in. And me and Mr. Logical just sat up here a couple of weeks ago with the NBA draft, right? Who knows these guys? This is an opportunity to showcase some new players. NBA Africa. We got Sasha Kinzenkopf, the EuroLeague MVP who just got picked up by the Sacramento Kings this year. This is a tournament where future EuroLeague MVPs could play in. So then when they set up the pools, they set it up by conference too. So it's not even like a grab bag mixture, of teams, because I've been a proponent of I would like to see the playoffs go 1 through 16, forget the conferences because you don't care about divisions anyway. But so for this tournament, that might have been an opportunity, but I understand from a travel standpoint, logistics wise, that may not work. Yeah. But they're using last year's standings to set up the pool for this year. So what happens if, say, Amen Thompson is everything that I think he is, and then the Houston Rockets go on and win this tournament, and then they win 33 games and don't make the playoffs? Then what? Like, is load management going to be a thing? Like, $500,000 per player to the winning team.
Do you have to play?
Do you have to play? But also,
can you sit your guys? Can you sit Kawhi on tournament game nights? Because we're going to get into the format too.
Right, and he was the guy that I was going to bring up. Like a guy like him who is load managing. Paul George, Anthony Davis, that does, people like this that generally load manage. But then you got your Gabe Vincents, your Shaedon Sharps, your Josh Giddies, who aren't necessarily getting paid just yet. So they want to ball out. And that's where it could be good, showcasing new players in the league. Maybe a team like, say, Minnesota gets on TV during this tournament where they normally wouldn't. So maybe that could be a good thing.
I mean, like, for me, I'm trying to get out of this. I'm actively getting out of this this aversion to change. I figure change is something new. Let me embrace it first. Because you can always break it down and be like, this is terrible. But it could work. It could be entertaining. It could lock you into now when you buying tickets. You're like, okay, I know these games are going to be tournament games, the play-in games, those games that are going to be scheduled on Tuesdays and Fridays from November 3rd to November 28th. So that's on Tuesdays and Fridays, you're only going to play those games. So you're going to play against the other teams in your group. So you got a group like we'll go Group A out west. You have Memphis, Phoenix, the Lakers, Utah, and can't read my old handwriting. Portland. So you got Portland. So like those kind of matchups, you got Portland versus LA, you got Utah, LA, Phoenix, Memphis. So you have like a good grouping there. If you go west, Boston, Brooklyn, Toronto, Chicago, and Orlando in the same one, but you got Brooklyn and Boston in the same Group C. So they'll play their games on those Tuesdays and Fridays, and then as the winners, the top 16s, we have the wild card. So it's a crazy format. But I think the fact that I thought when I first heard about this tournament, they were going to stop the season mid-season, put on this tournament that didn't count, and then resume the season and then go to the All-Star break, which is essentially another break in the season, and then play out the rest of the regular season. So because I had no idea what the format was going to be. But as I hear this format, I'm a fan. I'm excited for it because I think I think people will watch it just because it's another piece. It's like you have the NBA regular season, then you got the All-Star game. So, and then you have the playoffs. So some people don't watch all the regular season, but a lot of people tune in for the All-Star game stuff, like that whole weekend. Even though like I said, this past one was in Utah, it didn't seem very exciting, but people tuned in for that, different element. And then when the playoffs started, it was also different. And that's why I say I reason like the play-in, because the play-in requires teams that are in eighth, but they're 4 games up on a team that's in ninth. You know, they can't slack and just be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go 9," because years past in the play before the play-in, if you were 4 games back or 4.5 games back of eighth place with 12 games left, you just shut it down. You're like, "Yo, listen, we're not going to make up this difference. We're not going to go 12-0, and this other team go 7-5. So you're more like we're going to miss the playoffs anyway. So you would shut it down. So Charlotte comes up here to the tri-state area, and I want to see Sixers versus the Hornets, and LaMelo Ball is not playing because they're in ninth place. He's resting an ankle, or Embiid's not playing because they're firmly in 5.
Well, if he was playing more games in the first place, maybe they wouldn't have been 4 games back.
Yeah, so but he would have to play, but so Embiid would have to play to ensure like they don't drop to 7 and drop into the play-in. So that's why I like the play-in, because I'm not sure if it really changed the play dynamics, but it does change the effort and the entertainment aspect of it, because that's what Adam Silver ultimately has to look to, is like, is my league entertaining?
You know what'll make this tournament?
Is it making money? Is it entertaining?
You know what'll make this tournament entertaining? Give me the Elam endings.
So,
like they do the All-Star game, where, once you get to that certain point in the game, you get a target score. Give me that. That might make, because I saw that in Summer League today.
I hate the target score.
I like the target score.
I hate it.
Because so much. But see, for me, just from my perspective, that target score does what you say that the play-in does, for the All-Star game, where like instead of screwing off or whatever the case, I mean, they still screw off. This All-Star game this past year was probably the worst one I ever watched.
It just was like literally no one cared, and then when they basically let the other team get to the target score.
But in a theoretical sense, in one of these in-season games, you could have a 93 to 92 score, and your target score could be 100. And those last couple of possessions for those points bring that entertainment and effort that you're talking about the play-in does. So that's an idea maybe that somebody could throw out there. But but as far as
if you did that with the G League, I would use that with the G League, because the G League stats don't count, whereas these count towards your regular season record. So
yeah, everything counts except for the championship game.
Yeah, like, so we were talking about Kevin Durant's point total before we got on live. He's 1,300 points behind. Was it Melo?
No, he's I can't even remember. He's like 4,000 points behind Melo or something along those lines.
He was like 4,000 points behind Wilt, like 2,000.
Yeah, he was 40. Yeah, he was 4,500 behind
Wilt.
Behind Wilt, yeah,
and just shy of like less than 2,000 points behind.
See, I'm looking at it right now. Yeah.
So if you're playing one of these tournaments with just a target score, but it's a regular season game, then you can adversely affect the guy's potential bonus. Like Gilbert Arenas, I watched. He was on a podcast. I won't give him credit for this. He was talking about teams. He's like, if you're on a bad team and you get a $2 million bonus if you're averaging 20 points a game, they'll put you in the last game and check you right out. Now your point total is 19.9, and they won't put you back in. So if you have a guy in the regular season who he gets a bonus if he is averaging 22 points, 23 points. Well, in that total target score game, they could be sitting on 22, 23 points. And normally if they had a regular, your regular 48 minutes, they would hit that target point and they would just continue with the average. But if you just take a game, there's like first one to 100, game over, but it still counts, and potentially somebody misses out on $2, $4, $5, $10 million bonus, then that becomes a problem. So I think you keep it with the regular season, if you're going to count it as a regular season game, regular season points, but if you want to do the target score, have the same in season tournament for the G League because that's what they really need. I don't need to see Luca and Kyrie and LeBron and Kawhi and all these other NBA guys in an in season tournament. I need the guys that you want to put on TV in June shaking Adam Silver's hand. We need to see these guys play
Mm-hmm.
because right now you don't put Houston's not on TV a lot. Like we talked about this a few days ago. We'll talk about it more as the schedule comes out, see if we're right. But we predicted what we thought the 5 Christmas games are going to be, and in there we put a couple of hopeful games because that's what we're thinking. Like, oh, let's put a couple of young teams in there. But the NBA's probably going to do your same standard peanut butter and jelly sandwich of your cutout, like these 5
I
teams that
know.
they've
I'm
had
sitting up
every
here
single
trying
year.
to enjoy my smoked turkey while watching Julius Randle chuck.
So it's like that's what you're gonna get on Christmas Day. So you do it with the G League and you highlight it, like you really highlight it. I don't know if you have to have it at the regular arena and just charge $10 a ticket and let people sit courtside for $100 and just really sell the G League because they're trying to sell the NBA. There's people we already bought the NBA. People buy 2K. You about to play 2K
Mm-hmm.
earlier. I got like 5 jerseys in there. I got hats everywhere. I got LeBron shoes. I got Jordans. People like I have my basketball shoes or Dame Lillard shoes. Like we already are purchasing the stars of the NBA. You need to highlight the young guys. And I think this NCAA tournament might because if Kawhi is going to rest that day and it's a tournament game on a Tuesday, he's going to rest.
Yeah, and
He's
see,
not playing that game.
and nobody knows these guys, that are getting drafted or that are on some of these teams, but we know the G League dudes because those are probably the dudes that we watched in college. So those are the guys that, you might, some guys like me might be interested of like, hey, I'm a Kentucky fan. Let me check out Tata Washington, or, like, let me see what this guy who I thought had NBA star potential, but why is he down there playing for Sioux Fall? So on and so forth. Texas Legends, Raptors 905, whatever. But that's why I thought potentially you could add a G League team, like maybe the champion, to this tournament. But obviously that would go against it being a regular season tournament.
Yeah.
Because they're
And they will
saying
get
that,
destroyed.
and they would possibly get destroyed. You know what I
They would
mean?
lose
Like,
112 to 66.
hey, but that's my Rocky element. Rocky was supposed to get destroyed too. Now, granted, it was a movie, but
Well,
Rocky was
this
supposed to get destroyed too.
maybe you'll get an Orlando versus Houston final, and we get to see all these young players that have been drafted over the last 3 or 4 years, and see if they can really shine because that's what you need. Because if we do the math, like you and I are about to hit 42, a lot of the NBA stars are pretty close to that number as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like people don't think about it because they're all there in their 30s. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
we
these
don't
guys
need Denver to win this.
Yeah, these guys are like 34, 35, 36. Dame's over 30. Russ is over 30.
Steph is
All
35.
Steph is 35. LeBron's damn near 40. I think AD might be 30, but his body is 39. Like he
Mm-hmm.
might not have 6 or 7 years. That's not
Yeah.
a knock on him. It's
Yeah,
just
it's
like
just the
the
truth.
injuries that he has are like every year. I think they slow
Just
him
like
down.
one of my favorite NFL players, Todd Gurley. Just like him.
When it goes bad, it's like you you're a finely tuned athlete, so it's like it has to work out to where your whole body's intact. So a lot of these guys, Draymond's getting old, Clay's old, Kawhi, Paul George, and these are the guys we see everywhere. They're already starting their own second career. A lot of them
Yeah,
have
and Paul
podcasts on
George
podcasts all the time.
is older than Kawhi. I mean, granted, just a year, but
Yeah,
like you wouldn't think that.
like you think about like, oh, this guy got drafted in 2011. Like, yeah, but he got drafted at 22 years old. It's about to be 2024. Like
Hmm.
that's I mean, it just doesn't seem like it because we live in a life and we do math. Like, oh, like I was about to watch Superbad yesterday. That movie came out in 2007,
Well, that's like when I look at Harden,
16 years ago.
because I know you always talk about how Harden is pretty much washed up.
I
You
never
know,
said he was washed up. I just I
close
just
enough.
No, I just don't think. I don't think he was ever going to be able to carry a team, and the pace that he was playing at Houston, he'll never get back to that. So
Well,
I don't
okay,
know what he
so
does well enough
is
to
it safe
be
to
considered a
say
superstar because he can't do what he did in Houston, and I don't know what else
is
he
it safe
does.
to say he's on his decline?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
But that's
like,
the natural thing.
but looking at Harden, if I remember correctly, he came into the league after, KD and Westbrook, so
A couple of years in college, I
y- y-
believe. I think he did
yeah, so even
Arizona
at
State.
yeah, so even at worst, this is probably year 14, 13 or 14 for him.
Yeah,
You,
that's a long time. That's a
yeah,
lot. These guys are playing. Our your major stars in the NBA have been playing in the playoffs pretty much every year because Russ has been in the playoffs a lot, got a lot of run. AD's been a lot recently. Jokic's been getting a lot of playoff run. Chris Paul, older guy, but he's been in the playoffs. Like he just keeps his team in playoff contention all the time. They say he might not be a great teammate, whatever the case may be. And B's in the playoffs all the time. Kyrie, well, except for this year, but Kyrie's in playoffs. If he's not in the playoffs, he's hurt.
it adds up.
So it's like either you're
You know,
hurt and that's taken away from
like
what you can give physically, or
like
you play a lot of games, so that takes away what you can do
yeah,
physically.
like think about it. Like Golden State and Sacramento just went 7 in the first round. If this was like 92, it would have been a 5-game series. So, 2 extra games, from yesteryear, if you will.
Yeah,
So yeah, it adds up. And when you look at Golden State, you probably got to add an extra year or two to them because
they
they've been to the
played.
finals 6 times in the last 8 years,
Yeah, 6 finals runs
maybe 9
and
years,
then
but
8 9 years. So that's I think Draymond says something along the lines he was talking about. He was like, I've played. I think he said he played equivalent of like 2 extra NBA seasons,
and just
or
imagine,
at least 1.5 extra
and then just
over
imagine
most guys.
LeBron. You know what I mean? Like
He was
from
averaging like 100 games a year.
yeah, he got drafted in 2003.
20 years. 20 years of
Hey,
basketball.
when LeBron, I just retired from the military last August. When LeBron came into the league, I was already in for 4 years.
I did almost 22 years. When LeBron got drafted, I was on my first deployment
You
of
see what
like
I'm saying?
7.
I had already deployed, you know what I mean? I was in during 9/11. So like it's just like a whole different perspective, when you look at it in the large scope of things. But as far as this tournament, I'm gonna watch it just because I'm a basketball fan. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna watch it. The idea though is to get the casual in. It's just like you brought up NBA 2K. They don't make NBA 2K for me anymore because they just roll a video game out and I'm like, yo, let me start my league, add my expansion teams, and I'm good to go. They're making NBA 2K for the my career guys, that want to create a dude, take them to the rec in the park and all that stuff like that,
Get
get
them
their
tattoos.
VC, yeah, all that stuff like that. So they have to find a way. I don't know if this tournament does that as far as like getting the casual fan who only tunes in during the playoffs or like you said after All-Star break, or I would say most people that aren't like hardcore NBA fans probably pick it up on Christmas. And even after that, they
Because you have
chill.
football. You have
Yeah,
so much football.
but
You have
even after Christmas,
so much football.
but even after Christmas, you get into the NFL playoffs. So like you might catch that one day of those 5 games or whatever, and you keep up with that. But then you're not back again until after the Super Bowl. So I don't know if this tournament does anything to bring those people in and has those people excited. Like you might have some people for the semis and championship games get excited for trips because they're going to be in Vegas. So you might
I
have
think
people.
that's why they're doing it in Vegas, because I think you can get people to just want to go to the game because they're in Vegas and they'll just make it part of the Vegas experience. Like, yo, let's go to Vegas for this. So
But are
all you
people?
need is it's like 20,000 people. All you need that for the camera,
But
and then
are people going
you
to?
throw some celebrities.
But are people going to treat the knockout game like a playoff game or like
Oh, yeah,
March Madness or you know what I mean? Like, is that going to work in November,
I think it will because so it's the teams that win. Like if we go through the groups right now, we'll you pick a winner. Like whatever winner you pick, I'll circle it.
all right,
Okay,
well,
so we'll just based off just not even like just a wag, just a wild
right,
ass
right,
guess.
right, right. Yeah, give me the
All
groups.
right,
Yeah.
so we're gonna go Western Conference first. Group A: Memphis, Phoenix, Lakers, Jazz, Portland. Who wins that?
Lakers.
So you got Lakers. Group B, we got Denver, New Orleans, Dallas, Houston. I don't know. I'm killing my handwriting here. Clippers.
We'll go with Denver.
Denver. Group C, we
I
got
wanted to I
Sacramento,
wanted to pick
Golden
somebody
State.
else, but I couldn't.
I thought you would too. I was like, he's gonna say somebody else just to not say Denver. But
Yeah,
so Group C, we got Sacramento, Golden State, Minnesota, OKC, San Antonio,
Sacramento.
Sacramento. All right. So then we got Eastern Conference, Group A, 76ers, Cavs, Hawks, Pacers, Pistons.
Pacers.
Oh, I like it. All right, Group B: Bucks, Knicks, Heat, your beloved Wizards, and the Charlotte Hornets.
Bucks.
Group C: we got Celtics, Brooklyn, Toronto, Chicago, Orlando,
Boston.
Boston.
And then you got your two wild card teams. So
So
so my
one out of the
wild card,
West.
yeah, so my wild card teams, I'll pick Phoenix, as my West wild card. And then in the East, I will pick Cleveland.
Cleveland. All right, so that gives us a tournament of Phoenix versus LA, Denver versus Sacramento, Cavs versus Indiana, Bucks versus Celtics.
All
So
right.
that's a decent. So you might get a situation where maybe Donovan Mitchell. I know, granted, the likelihood of him scoring over 70 points 2 seasons in a row is unlikely, but he's streaky, he gets hot. Uh, and the Cavs, they run it for the East. So you got Cavs versus Sacramento in the championship.
See, I would love that, but the
Yeah,
casual won't like that.
but I think if if they get it through the knockout, I think people will like it because it's quicker. I don't think people were rocking with the NBA playoffs because it's 7 games. And we, like, for instance, I don't say we knew, but we all predicted that Denver was going to beat Miami. So each game felt like delaying the inevitable. Even though Miami put up a great run, it just when it came down to it, it was like, yeah, Denver is going to probably beat Miami. So
Right.
that's what we've been getting in the finals is these matchups to where like all the rounds leading up to the championship. It's 4 rounds of 7 games. That's a lot of games to get a casual fan to watch. With this many 20 teams make the NBA playoffs, so it's too much time.
I need Adam Silver to fix the summer league. That's what I need him to fix.
The summer league is just a showcase,
So
and
give these
yeah,
players some money.
yeah, they're not giving up that money. They give you an opportunity to be
I
on
swear, like
TV.
I've been watching summer league all day. Like, so I've been catching games here and there sparingly, like certain matchups. I watched Wembenyama. I watched Amen and Scoop before they got hurt, all that good stuff like that. But today is like the first day that I've actually sat like from beginning to just about end to watch the summer league. And every game that I've watched today literally has a team jump out to like a 17-point lead. Then the other team comes back, or it's just a blowout. And I don't understand why. Like, I mean, Charlotte is just bad, but like I think I saw somebody post. I
Would
didn't.
you say something about like it's the worst summer league team ever assembled? It's like
Yeah,
who's
yeah, yeah,
tracking that?
yeah. That
Who's
wasn't my
tracking that
comment. That
information?
was
Yeah, that's what
somebody.
I'm saying.
Yeah,
Somebody
yeah.
said that to you.
Somebody said that on one of the podcasts that I listened to. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Andrew Schleck from one of the NBA podcasts on The Athletic, but they were saying that it was the worst summer league team. Like Charlotte didn't even try. They were just like, "Yo, we want to see Brandon Miller play." So like, just get some people out there. You know.
What I mean, I'm not sure if they have a real viewership problem. Maybe it's a money thing. Maybe people are just expecting. that every single generation of the NBA in the last 40 years has had like a spike in something. Like
Hmm.
you had the 80s where it just went from the 70s where everyone was winning championships and it was kind of like blah and it was like tape delay. And then you had the Magic Bird. So you had these players that drove everything regarding the NBA. And now like the players you have are, like I think you run out of time. Like
Hmm.
these guys, like it's gonna be in 3 years, none of the guys who are considered top 10 right now and like popularity, jersey sales,
Hmm.
shoe deals, stuff like that. Most of those guys are gonna be gone. Steph's gone, KD's gonna be gone. Maybe Russ is still kind of like just out there playing for the love of it, but I can see him gone. Chris Paul gone, LeBron gone. AD probably goes after that. MB, maybe he ends his career a little early because it's like, hey, he gets another little nagging foot injury that he can't come back from. Something like that.
Hey,
Just like, you know what? I think I'm done. And
hey, Mr.
you're gonna run out of players.
Mr. Logical got his Dame to Utah. I got my MB to New York. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, but like summer league, like you can tell some teams like actually put thought into their summer league team as far as like I want to get a look at this guy, or even if it's not like the big rookie that you draft. Like the Suns have this guy, Kamara. Like he's got to get some rotational minutes. Like I don't know, like I know they got their roster filled out now, but like at some point this guy's going to get called up and he's going to play. I was looking at Portland, and they got this guy Mike DeVoe. I don't know if he's going to get called up, but he's on the summer league team for a reason. Like somebody wanted to see him and see what he can do, and he was out here when they played with Banyama. He out here scoring 27 points or whatever. He's not going to supplant Shaden Sharp or anything like that, but somebody wanted to get a look at him. But these teams like the Wizards and Charlotte, like the way that they put effort into their summer league team shows you why they're the Hornets and the Wizards. Like it's like, okay, I know who you drafted. Ain't nobody else on this court getting a call up. They ain't getting no 10-day contracts out here.
Well, it's like they're hoarding players. They just have like some teams. They just have too many. They just have too many guys. And like I said, we talked about this before. You got 12 guys on the bench. You're only playing 8. You got guys literally could not have a jersey on underneath their warm up, and it won't even matter because you're never going to put them in a game.
Yeah.
But like the poor teams are going to make poor decisions and they're going to have poor results.
But
But
I'm
the
just
NBA
like,
is like,
but I'm just like trying to
they're
find
trying
a
to cap.
gym. Try to find a gym or something. Like try to find your Max Struess. Try to find your Gabe Vincent, because it's not
It's
always gonna.
basketball. These guys are good at it. Give them a shot. Like
Yeah.
most coaches get fired anyway.
Right.
No matter what your contract is, most guys are getting fired. So you might as well go out there and make decisions that at least make it look like your effort is matching your
Yeah.
intensity and
Like
what you said in the interview.
Yeah, like when I was watching the Spurs, obviously everybody was, looking at Wembanyama, but Malachi Branham was out there. He was on the roster last year, and last year he killed it in summer league. This year he's killing it in summer league, but I don't know how many minutes he's going to get, during the actual season. And it's like I understand. Obviously, we talked about overtime elite with the Thompson twins and the competition that they were playing against. So summer league, obviously, you're not playing against the best of the best. But if you stand out,
At least you're playing against grown men. You're playing
yeah,
against big bodies at least. Because the
let me give you a
overtime elite
shot.
it felt like it was like a lot of smaller guys. But summer league, you're probably playing against 23, 24-year-old guys, maybe a couple of 25, 26-year-old guys, been in the gym a little bit, might have a little strength to them. Shows you like, you can take a bump, you can take a foul. But the summer league, like the NBA, if you want to increase its viewership, then either you're gonna have to just accept the fact that the summer league they're gonna get like you get a couple of games with Biyama. I think that's what it is. Like, listen, we can play a couple of games and we're gonna sit them down because we can't. It's no purpose. I gotta get eight. I gotta sell out 41 home games with my team as an owner, as a GM, as a coach, as a player personnel. Like,
I say don't play him at all if that's the case.
well, you gotta generate the buzz too. Like it's a double edged sword. You can't overplay him, but you got to let him showcase something. That way, people are excited to pay because the Wimbyama tickets are going to be inflated.
Hmm.
They're you might be able to get last year's San Antonio versus the Wizards in DC was probably $12. You could probably like legitimately be somewhere in the arena with a $12 ticket, $15 ticket, maybe even 20. You might be high up there, but you might be able to get in, 12 to 15 bucks for a ticket on StubHub or SeatGeek or one of these apps. This year, when San Antonio comes to town, that's gonna be a $75 ticket. Even if you're above the scoreboard, it's still gonna be about 75 to 100 bucks
No, I
just to
get
be in
that.
the
Like,
building. So you
but
got to showcase them in order to be able to sell that product.
so how much do you think? I know we always talk about motivation and like, did the other team motivate the star to come out and kill him or whatever? So like, do you think that summer league has a correlation as far as if the Rockets win summer league, that gives
Yeah,
them a certain confidence going into the season?
I think what I think what it does, it might give individual players confidence because if you like, I'm watching quarterback on Netflix and Kirk Cousins. He's a real introspective guy, and he talks about being comfortable and confidence, and when things click. So if you got a young guy, like Chad Holmgren, got injured playing the exhibition game last year, missed his whole rookie year. The knock on him is he's so skinny. Can he handle the rigors of the NBA? But you go out there and you get, some great highlight blocks, some chase down blocks, some rotational defense blocks, help defense when you come from the weak side, help defense, and you put up 25 points. That can let him know, like, yo, all right, my foot's good. I'm ready to go. Get me to training camp. You just might need that. Everybody's not going to get that opportunity to get to training camp, but I think that helps him. If they would have sat Victor Wembanyama after his first game and say, you know what, we're going to shut it down, I'm not sure if he feels as confident as he did after having over 20 plus points the second game. Then you shut him down.
So with
It's
that,
like get the free throw, see the ball go through the hoop. That whole concept of seeing the ball go through the hoop. Now you're good to go. But Jamal Murray did it in the series with the Lakers when he was missing all day long. And then in that fourth quarter, he hit like a little step back 2-pointer and it went in. He was like, and he said, I think he said, finally, he said he showed like a visible sense of relief. Like, finally, my jumper went through. And then he scored like 17 points for the rest of the quarter.
so with
I,
that
I
being
think that's
said,
the kind of buzz you get.
Chet Holmgren gonna win Rookie of the Year.
I think I know the odds. Like I have the odds written down here. I'm a big gambler. Holla at your boys at the casino last night. It was fun. I love it. Um, his odds are plus 700. Because like I said, this conversation is like not necessarily excluding Victor Wembanyama, but the assumption is he's an outright front runner.
Yeah, he's the odds-on favorite. So there's no point for us to say, "Hey, Wembanyama can win Rookie of the Year."
Yeah, so Chet Holmgren is third at plus 700. So that you mean you bet $100, you win 700 plus your 100 back. So total, you'll get $800 back. Scoot Henderson's plus 400. Brandon Miller's plus 1300. Um, and we'll talk through each one. Chet, I think he has an opportunity, except what's going to necessarily hold him back is that they have SGA, Giddy, that had a good season last year. SGA, first team All NBA, showed he's a star, NBA All Star with the, walking in the
Mhm.
arena with the Louis briefcases and the full league mink coats. Like he's full on the
And wants
star.
more money for the All-Star game.
So he's the star. He's locked in.
He
Giddy.
could be an MVP candidate depending on how
I
this
think
season
I
goes for
think
them.
automatically you should be MVP candidate if you make any of the all NBA teams,
Mhm.
especially first team all NBA. Like,
Well,
okay,
I'm just saying, if
you should
OKC
roll.
wins 50 games this year, like he
I
might
think
for real.
I think if we start talking about it now, the buzz will generate, but they got to win games. And I think
Mhm.
Chet Holmgren being healthy will help them win games, but it's a matter of like who gets the credit, and that's how the rookie of the year, most awards work. We talk about this with KD and Steph. Both of those guys were probably still worthy of being in the MVP conversation, but the fact that they're on the same team back in 2017, 2018, 2019, it was like it just canceled out. Same thing with healthy AD, healthy LeBron. It's like, okay, you guys cancel each other out. Russ by himself getting a triple double. That's been the award. That's been the formula that we've seen recently. So based on a lot of these picks, Scoot Henderson probably has the best shot because Dame wants out and he's gonna fill in where Dame was. Portland will still probably be terrible. But if he plays with that intensity and that chip on his shoulder, because he said before the draft, he was like, I still think I should be number one pick.
Yeah, he's ready.
Yeah, so if he plays with that tenacity, it's like Dame 2.0. Victor Wembanyama, I'm not sure if he will be able to do that just because the way he plays doesn't look the same either. Doesn't move the same. And I think they're going to have to, I think San Antonio is going to manage him more to
Mhm.
where his minutes won't match up to get him like
Yeah,
the
they're gonna
points
have him
he
on a
needs.
pitch count.
And I think Chet's going to be in the same situation where you might. It's like I would want my 7'2" guy who can handle the ball and shoot the three out there, but it's like you're coming off a foot injury. You are abnormally tall and abnormally skinny, so we're gonna have
Hey,
to
they said
monitor.
that man gained 16 pounds.
And he still weighs 16 more pounds than my 14-year-old son. Like, I mean, let's keep it a buck. He's not very big, so it's like if you think about like Zion is, they said he's 260 when he plays. So New Orleans versus OKC, Chet's in the starting lineup. You put him on Zion.
I'm gonna go with no.
I mean, you can put him on Brandon Ingram,
Hmm.
but Brandon Ingram has some years in the league. He has some of that. He has like grown man strength that I don't know. They might weigh the same. I think Brandon Ingram's a pretty skinny guy. I don't think it's really impacted him negatively throughout his career, but he's a pretty skinny guy. You can maybe match him up there. So with OKC, they're gonna go. Everything's gonna go through SGA. Brandon Miller, he's gonna have Lamelo Ball, and Lamelo Ball is gonna be the reason why he's the star. He'll get the lob passes, so Lamelo Ball will get all the shine and all the accolades, and they still won't win any games. It won't like they're gonna win a lot more games. Like just
Yeah.
keep it a buck. There's like
Hey, they
they're
got
probably,
Miles Bridges back.
yeah, as long as he got his focus back. But they're probably gonna win around the same amount of games they won last year. Maybe they'll
Well,
be in the play-in contention.
Brandon Miller makes me sound like such a hypocrite sometimes. Cause I'm out here telling everybody like, don't overreact to summer league. Don't overreact to summer league, like good or bad. I went down the list 2-5 daily talking about this person has the most rebounds in a G League game. You never heard of him. This person has the most assists, so on and so forth. But then when I look at Brandon Miller, the last taste that we had of Brandon Miller was him going 8 for 41 in the NCAA tournament. So
That's
just
tough, man.
so just
That's
for
tough.
me, so just for me, like the way my mind works is like, yo, the next time I get on a basketball court on national TV or whatever, I got to reintroduce myself. My name is Hove, you know, and
I
and,
saw
and
a high school highlight where he jumped over a guy and dunked on him.
yeah,
Like
like
jumped
he don't do
completely
that
over this
now.
dude. This dude was gonna try to take a charge. He just jumped completely over this guy. Granted, the dude's probably a sophomore or whatever, 5'8",
Yeah, so at
but he
best,
completely cleared this guy and dunked the basketball. I haven't seen anything like that from him since.
you're hoping that just because you brought him up, you're hoping Brandon Miller could be a Brandon Ingram, type dude. Like a lot of people compare him to Paul George or Danny Granger, but you're hoping for like a BI kind of guy. But when I came out and I watched him after his 8 for 41 worst NCAA tournament performance ever, probably, he goes 5 for 15. He goes 4 for 18 in summer league. And granted, I know he's got nobody around him on the summer league team, and it'll look better once he gets around Melo and your boy Terry Rozier. But it's just like after coming off that 8 for 41, I wanted to see him come out the first game of summer league and just say, "I'm here."
I talked about that. Like when he got drafted, I was like, his face didn't. It just didn't. Everyone doesn't have to be super intense. Everyone doesn't have to be pumping their chest. Like, a guy like Kawhi, you could bump Kawhi and he'll just keep walking. Like, or you ask for a fist bump and he'll be like, let's keep going. Like he's not a rah-rah guy, and I get that. But I was just looking at Brandon Miller. It was like, you just got drafted number 2 overall to a team that at that point Jordan still was part of the ownership group. So
Jordan was the one that picked him.
You're literally going to go to one of the most iconic people on earth, one of the most iconic people to ever do anything in the history of the globe. And you're just kind of like, just want to
Eeyore.
Just like, maybe that's not your personality, but it just seems like you would expect a little bit more. Like a little bit more.
Yeah, my daughter's fire. Like that. Like I could literally be like, baby, we won the Powerball, $800 million. And my daughter would be like, that's so cool. like that's just, some people are just like that, despondent like that, like.
Yeah, so it just didn't give me the.
And the sad thing for Brandon Miller, like, like even if he ends up being good, going forward, he might not even be the best rookie that Charlotte drafted this year. Like you got Nick Smith out there who was like the number 1 point guard coming out of high school, and they got Amari Bailey from UCLA, who they aren't going to be better than him long term probably, but for the purposes of this season,
he's gonna get more run simply because they drafted him number 2 overall.
Right.
Like he's gonna get the biggest opportunity to be the best player.
All right, who's next on these odds?
I didn't really go like next. I just looked at a couple of different ones. Like for instance, you have Whitmore and Amen, both of them on the same team.
Cancel each other out.
Amen's is plus 2,500. Whitmore's plus 5,000. But that's a young team, and that's like I said, Jalen Green is going for his. He's getting his rookie extension after this year. So if he plays well or a little bit better than he played this season, like if it looks like he made a jump, he's going to get his rookie extension, which is probably somewhere in the realm of like 200 plus million. I know Melo Ball got 260 reportedly.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be at least 200 million.
And then you also have
Houston still has the money because they've been giving out bags to everybody that came through.
And then you also have, I think you also have Jabari Smith trying to break out, and
he's going to take a lot of shots.
Yeah, you're going to get into that thing. Is this Jalen Green's team or is this Jabari's team?
It's like, who do they want to pay?
Yeah, and and somebody like Amen, I mean, between him and his brother, he's the facilitator of the two. Even though, from what I've seen so far, like Asar is very underrated as a passer, but Amen is the one that was noted as this is the playmaker. But then you went out and got Van Vliet. So, like Van Vliet is a little small chucker, you know what I mean? But he gets a lot of assists as well. So, like, that's why when we were talking about this before, my initial thought was Amen's just going to run the second unit.
Or maybe they're trying to build like, a Boston South, where you turn
maybe, but I think they got too much.
You turn Amen into Marcus Smart.
They got too much. I think they got too much though, because you got Tatum and Brown, but then you got like Horford, you got Tom Lord,
Boston
know,
was
you got
running 4 point guards.
no,
They
I'm
were
just
playing. They were playing
but I'm talking
Paxson. They were
about
playing White. They were playing Brogdon, and they were playing Marcus
but
Smart.
I'm talking about the level of player and knowing who they are, like knowing their role. Whereas in Houston, you just picked Amen number 4. Whitmore was supposed to go top 5 to top 8 or whatever and went 20. So he's going to have that chip on his shoulder. You got Kevin Porter Jr., who acts like Michael Porter Jr. and never sees a shot that he doesn't like. You got Jabari and Jalen fighting to see whose team it is. You got Dylan Brooks shooting whenever the hell he wants, even though he should never shoot. You got
I
Van
forgot
Vliet.
about that.
You,
Yeah,
you
so
got you got Van Vliet chucking.
We'll go ahead and cancel. We'll go ahead and cancel out any Houston players for Rookie of the Year.
And then, oh, by the way, you got Tari Eason, who's going to be fighting with Jabari for minutes, and you got Alfred Şengün. So so they just got like everything. It's
too much.
That's a great team on 2K. You know what I'm saying? But in real life, it don't work like that.
They have enough to probably get Dame out of Portland if they wanted to.
That's what I'm saying.
Like they have enough pieces. They have enough. That's a lot of like.
And you got a new coach
type of player.
And you got a new coach
who's a defensive coach.
Right.
Who last time he coached the game was an NBA final. So it's like his standards are going to be a little higher than,
So Amen may very well end up being the best player in this draft, but he's not going to be the best rookie just based off of minutes and style and
his numbers won't. You may think he projects higher, but his numbers won't beat out some of these other guys.
Like Scoot, who's going to get the keys to the city.
He might shoot 39 to 42% from the field and 20, but he's gonna have the most shots. He's gonna have at least one or two like breakout games, maybe even a buzzer beater, because the ball is going to be in his hand, because I think it's going to probably go through him a lot.
Right. And then you got Ausar, over in Detroit, who's trying to figure themselves out. They just gave Monty Williams this contract.
Ivy's team.
You know what I mean? And I've been watching Ivy in Summer League, and like I think they're trying to do some combo guard stuff with him, but like he's like more of a Tyrese Maxey kind of guy, where like you're trying to get him to play point because he's in a point guard body, but he's not really a point guard. You got Cade, who is a giant, but he's the point guard. So he's like the same size as Ausar, maybe even like a couple inches taller.
Cade, like he measures 6'8", right?
Yeah, and I believe Ausar is 6'6". So then you got Jalen Duren down low. You're trying to figure out what you got in James Wiseman. You got one of the Bogdanoviches. So it's the same thing where they have a lot. And, if you're Monty Williams, who is great at player development, but
don't set up to DeAndre Ayton.
But same thing coming out of Phoenix. He had CP3, Booker, got to coach Durant for a few games, like
coaching NBA finals, my standards are going to be higher.
Yeah,
can you rise to those standards?
And Ausar and Amen definitely have the athleticism, I believe, to be pretty good players in this league, but we got to see them against NBA players before we can actually have an idea of what they are.
Well, luckily they're tall.
Yeah, they got that. Where Scoot is 6'2".
Going. Scoot's smaller.
But Scoot just got that dog in him, and Scoot got that Ving Rhames face. You know what I'm saying? Like he been through it all.
Old face.
He been through it all, man.
Like a Samuel Jackson, Morgan Freeman face.
Yeah, like can't you just see like Shaedon Sharpe like taking a shot and Scoot just walk over there talking about pass the ball, motherfucker.
Like, listen, it goes through me.
Yeah.
You want the ball, get off the rim.
If you sell a nickel bag at MacArthur Park, I want in. But yeah, so then like I was looking at this. So draft night, I loved Utah picking up Taylor Hendricks, out of
Yes.
UCF. So I was like, hey, 6'9", shooting 40 from three, on a young team that's not necessarily in playoff range, but could sneak into the playoffs. So I had him on my list on draft night, but then they went and got John Collins. So like, so now when I look at it, I'm thinking like, is Colin Sexton on the trade block? Because if so,
Depends on how good Keontae George is, because he's
yes,
also on the list at
and
plus, but
he's
he's
my.
plus 11,000.
But I think he's a sleeper. I think he could be a
Then
sleeper.
put $100 on him because it's plus 11,000.
I might just have to. Like, he was my
Even
favorite
$10
player.
get you 1,100.
He was my favorite player in college last year. And I think that there's some same thing with summer league. They're playing him in that point guard role.
But
Whereas
he
I don't
looks
know if
the
he's.
part too.
He
He
does look the
looks like
part.
a
Yeah.
good basketball player. Like I was watching his highlights from a couple of games, and it was like he had like 59 points, 17 assists, 17 rebounds, 11 assists, like that in like 2 games. But I was watching him handle the ball. I was watching him space the floor. I just look at him. I'm like, he looks like a guy that should have got drafted in the top 5. But for
And I think
some
it's
reason,
body. I think it's body because I saw him listed 6'4", 170.
and but even with that, I think they took a lot of guys. Like they took a couple of guys. The guy that was on Wembanyama's team that averaged
Yeah.
like 7 points.
Bilal Coulibaly.
These teams are picking guys based off this mythical word potential.
You know what? I'm
Versus
glad you
like,
said
does
that.
this guy look like a basketball player? Does he
You know
look
what?
like
You know what I
he
heard?
can handle? I'm listening.
I heard somebody on a podcast on the Athletic say that Coulibaly is young Giannis.
That so you mean to tell me young Giannis would only got 6 points in the French league?
Just saying.
Young Giannis,
Mets 92. Like ain't nobody from the Mets, any team called the Mets doing anything.
listen,
Sorry, Chris.
Chris, don't. No, I'm not gonna let him play you like that, son. Listen, the Mets are moving. All right, shout out to Chris.
Yeah, they moving to the
Shout out to
bottom of the
Dolphins.
division. That's where they moving to.
Shout out to the
And if I
Dolphins, man.
remember correctly, you picked them to win the division.
Listen, baseball is a numbers game. It's just you put enough money into something, it should work out. But these NBA rookie picks is like,
so same thing, right?
you got to
I
be
like
on a bad team. That's why, like, when everyone was like, because Walker Kessler probably had a really good, effective year as a rookie, but he didn't have a more visually, his year wasn't better than Pablo. Like it just one thing, it just looks like, oh yeah, you could be a good rookie and be a viable piece on a good team, and maybe you average 12 points and some rebounds, and you shoot like Keegan Murray in Sacramento. Yeah, he shot great from three, but he shot great on a team that also shot pretty well. So
right.
he just was a really good rookie on a team of good veterans. Whereas Pablo was like the good rookie on a young team that didn't have any veteran presence. I think Cole Anthony, Markelle Fultz might be your veterans on that team. So
Well, and Wendell Carter, I guess. But like what's funny is like back to Hendricks for a quick second. Not only did Utah go pick up John Collins, but they already got Markkanen too. So it's going to be a struggle for some front court minutes out there.
I think they just have to give rankings to each person, but realistically, it's like the guy who's going to get the guy on the worst team who's going to have the ball in his hand the most is the guy
Scoot.
who's is Scoot. And if Toronto goes full empty cupboard, you might have Grady Dick. He might be able to steal some if he has an NBA game.
Yeah, I don't know if
I'm
I
not
like
sure.
him though.
I'm not sure if it translates from Kansas to the NBA to be the guy. You know, we had Wiggins, we had Embiid. Shout out to Paul Pierce. So I'm not sure, like, if this current, realm of Kansas players come into the league.
You really going to talk about Kansas and disrespect Mario Chalmers like that?
Yo, Mario Chalmers is so angry for a dude that got to play with pretty, pretty dope group of guys. He just
Yeah,
feels like everybody wants credit. Everybody wants a lot of credit. Like, yo, just it's okay to be part of a really good team,
yeah.
and people will give you credit for that. But it's like
So
it just blows my mind. But
so
yeah,
so
like the guy has to be on a bad team and be able to take a lot of shots.
yeah, so one of my picks, because all I wrote on my notes really was Scoot is the obvious choice. You know what I mean? But just for the sake of conversation, um, I like Anthony Black out of Orlando. But there's one major thing I don't like about him. I think he's going to be really good. He's looked good so far in summer league. Only problem is he is 6'7" guard with a 6'7" wingspan.
The wingspan thing is it's overrated.
Hey, I
It's
like wingspan.
it's over. It's the same thing with quarterback hand size. Uh, I'm pretty sure a lot of second string quarterbacks in the NFL have big ass hands, but they're also backup quarterbacks. I'm pretty sure Mike Glennon with the long neck has big hands, but does he throw it to the right spot? Like that's all that
like,
matters.
but I like Anthony Black because I think we've been talking about this for a couple of weeks now. One of the Cole Anthony, Jalen Suggs, if not both, are out of there. They probably got enough to get a Dame trade. But but
If
but
you keep
but
drafting all this young talent, you might as well do something with it.
but Anthony Black can also be interchangeable to where he doesn't have to run point. He can run the three. Like he can be a small ball four at times, not for very long periods of time. But with our new positionless NBA, he can do that. I like Kobe Brown from the Clippers as far as like a late pick because I believe he went number 30 or so, um, from Missouri. I like him a lot. 6'6", and I'm going to say it, 7'1.5" wingspan. Say he's a good shooter. He can get some minutes because the Clippers are always load managing / injured. So he might get some minutes unless they get James Harden, and then he'll probably be on his way to Philly. Olivier Maxence Prosper, we talked about him in our pre-show a little bit from Dallas. I like him. He's 6'9", defensive intensity. I just feel that he doesn't shoot it well enough from three for today's NBA. Maybe he develops that later, but I don't think you go from 34% in college to all of a sudden just knocking it down in your rookie year in the NBA. And
Probably not.
then a long shot, two long shots. Jarris Walker from Indiana, came from Houston. I like him a lot in that Draymond vein, kind of like the does everything guy. But they went and got Obi Toppin. So, I'm imagining Obi Toppin is probably
The,
either going to start or get a lot of minutes.
yeah, the guy
You,
you pay is gonna play.
yeah, and then I like Kobe Buffkin. He was the guy I was talking about in our pre-show where I said he's probably on the right team, but he's behind the wrong players because they got Trae Young, they got DeJounte Murray, and they just paid DeJounte. So, I don't know how many minutes are available for him, but he's a long shot. He reminds me of Jordan Poole, not just because he went to Michigan, but, like we were talking about Kevin Durant and how everybody talks about this great shooter that KD is. But then when you look at the numbers, you're like, I mean, like he shoots like 36 from three, or like whatever. Like, where's this great shooter that you're talking about?
The thing that works for KD is that he's always around 90% at the free throw line,
Right.
and he gets fouled on those shots. So like he'll go 8 for and have 28 points because he'll go 13 for 14 from the free throw line because every jumper, because there's not many guys in the league. Like I think Brandon Ingram might be close
Yeah.
to that length and that size. Obviously,
You,
Tatum did a number on him 2 seasons ago in the playoffs,
uh-huh.
but for the most part, not many guys can really contest him. So a lot of guys are following him. A lot of 6'7" guards, or if you switch CJ McCollum onto him, he's probably going to get a foul call. So you have things like that. So that's why KD looks the way he does. But like I said, with these rookies, I'm not sure the last time a guy that wasn't. So if we go back, here, actually I have it pulled up here. So the last 10 years, We got Paulo, Scotty Barnes, LaMelo, Ja Morant, Luca, Ben Simmons, Malcolm Brogdon, Karl Anthony Towns, Wiggins, Michael Carter Williams, Dame Lillard. All those guys were on the floor, ball in hand, all game long.
Sorry, I saw Mina Kimes.
Killing. Uh yeah, so I mean, you gotta have the guys gonna have the ball all the time. Scotty Barnes is probably the only guy that didn't have the ball all the time, but he was on the court all the time.
But he's still like a point forward though, for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, but like I said, he was dynamic on a good team, but he was always on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not gonna be a guy who doesn't start.
Right.
Can't be a backup to a guy who's like, you can't be the backup to DeJounte Murray because
Right.
like he just has so many years and he just knows the game. He's gonna look, the offense will look way better on the floor with him running it than when you come in the game and you're running this vanilla kind of like motion offense, whatever the case may be.
Right.
So, like I said, Scoot's obvious. I think Victor obviously is Oz, but I think Chet has a real shot.
Mm-hmm. He does.
I would say no. I'm gonna say no with Brandon Miller. I don't really see it because I don't like I said, we haven't seen the intensity yet. So you also have to be kind of a showcase. Like Paolo, he has a name, Paolo Banchero. Like it just, he went to Duke. He just has that whole the big body, the big attitude. He was playing a lot of those summer events. Then he had the little video when him and DeJounte Murray were going back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So he has that before the season started, that intensity that people already were looking for. And then he went to Orlando. That's, it's a bad team with some other young players, but he was the man on that young team.
Mm-hmm.
So Brandon Miller won't be the man on a young team. Keontae George would be dope because, like I said, I just like the way he looks. I just like the way certain basketball players is kind of just the way they operate on the floor. Like I like the way Ja looks when he's out there and he's navigating. I like the way Chris Paul looks. I just like the way these guys they just move and they just move the way they get to the basket. I don't like the way Luka plays all the time, but I can see how effective it is, like how he uses his body.
Mm-hmm.
He does seem to exhaust himself a lot. Like they said, like towards the end of the season, a lot of end of the games, he's kind of exhausted because he does take a lot of he does put his body on guys a lot, and guys are running through him because he's a big guy. But it doesn't look the same as how Jalen Brunson looks when he's on the court, or like old James Harden, or obviously Kyrie is one of these guys that's just like aesthetically pleasing when he gets the ball in his hand. So when you see that, like that's what I see when I see like Keontae George.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, I like him a lot. He's my long shot pick. So for me, just right now, leaving Scoot and Victor out of it, for me, it goes Keontae George and then Anthony Black. Like those are the other two that I'm considering for rookie of the year. I don't see it with like a lot of the big men in this draft, or bigger men, I should say, are like a lot of projects. Like Derek Lively's a project. Like he's going to look a lot like JaVale McGee this year, probably. Not enough to impact anything outside of blocking shots. Taylor Hendricks, we talked about the log jam that he's putting up with. Same thing with Jarris Walker potentially, with Obi Toppin there. I don't even know if he starts. Jaime Jaquez from the guy, drafted from UCLA to Miami. He's not going to score enough. Like Miami,
yeah, they're not going to give him enough shots. Duncan Robinson, and if they still have Tyler Hero, he's going to be your shooter. If you get Dane, he's going to be your shooter.
Yeah, Grady Dick, you mentioned him. He might get shots, but that's dependent on them getting rid of at least one of OG or Siakam.
Yeah, somebody has to go. Like I said, if they strip it down and they look like Orlando, they look like Washington, they look like one of these teams that's kind of stripped down, and you're just giving the keys to whoever you have in the organization, then I think he has a shot. If, like I said, if he can manage this NBA, because like I said, if you get to 18 to 20 points, then 18, 20 points, 6 to 7 assists, 6 to 7 rebounds. I think that'll win you rookie of the year. If
Yeah,
you're especially if you're
otherwise,
on a bad team.
if Toronto runs it back, he's just going to be Kyle Korver.
Stand on the wing.
Wait for it, and
Yep.
then maybe JJ Redick at best. And then you got Prosper that I mentioned from Dallas. Like, so he would be like my number 3, I guess, not counting Scoot and Victor. So, I don't know. Like, I was looking at this, we talked about it. And when I look at this draft, I know everybody talked about how weak it was. They said it was like a 3-player draft, and then it's real weak after that. I disagree unless the argument is just we're looking for stars. I see a
Stars, yeah.
I see
It's
a
lots
lot
of
of
star
good.
power.
Yeah, I
All
see
these
a lot
guys
of
are
good
good.
NBA players. Like, I see a lot of dudes that are going to be around the league
You see that
for
video of
quite some
Amani
time.
Bates not missing a shot?
Yep. And then I watched him today, and I was like, why is he on a basketball court? Like, I was watching him, and I was just like, he had that KD thing where they had guys on him that were 6'3" or so, and he would just fade away from the free throw line. And I'm just like, dude, like,
Well, you gotta get him there and get him coaching, like NBA coaching, because I think I always liked him. I'm not sure if you need the coaching guidance because he's a unique kind of player.
right.
It's starting to become a little bit more common, but he's that tall, long, skinny, doesn't look like he's gonna be able to really put on a lot of weight, which is NBA's kind of shifting towards that. It seems like Dwayne Wade was always really big,
Uh-huh.
Kobe was big. Allen Iverson was the only guy that was like skinny that was getting a lot of run. Tim Duncan was considered skinny, but if you look at him compared
He was a
to
tree.
yeah, if you look at him compared to like a guy like Chet Holmgren and all these other guys who are 7 feet tall, they're in the league now. Even like JaVale McGee was probably considered skinny, but if you look at JaVale McGee, he looks like a monster compared to Victor.
Right.
As far as that size. So I think Imani just needs that tutelage, but he's on a team where you have Donovan Mitchell puts up a lot of shots. Then you have Darius, and then you have Levert coming back. So I'm not sure how much run he gets. And I know that in college he did transfer schools and maybe had some beef. Maybe like, is your attitude right? Like because
Mm-hmm.
you're a good basketball player. Don't ruin this opportunity because right now you're not getting a lot of run. Because I think he's a
Mm-hmm.
very like that, like I said, that video, him like the shot making ability, that's not gonna go away. You just gotta figure out, okay, where do I shoot this shot? How do I get to this spot and get, my left hand cleared so where this defender is nowhere near me when I'm trying to put this shot up,
Mm-hmm.
or are his feet out of place. So I think certain guys are gonna translate to be better players. Um, he's on a good team because he's on a
Yeah.
team where
Yeah.
like if you move one guy, you're still a good team, and you get to move up. You
Mm-hmm.
get to move up in the depth chart. Like if they make Donovan Mitchell is not going anywhere, but they trade Darius Garland,
Mm-hmm.
that that gets you some minutes. That gets you 12
Yeah.
minutes somewhere.
Isaac Okoro. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it gets you to move up a little bit of depth chart. You sliding closer to the coaches on the bench versus being at the end with the people in the Balenciaga hoodies.
Yeah. I like.
You're on the court.
Yeah. And outside of Kobe Buffkin down in Atlanta, I also like their second round pick, Seth Lundy, but that's the same problem. Like, you're just playing behind those two dudes. So unless there's a Trae Young trade that we don't know about, like, I know there were rumors, but if there's not a Trae Young trade, neither one of y'all gonna get the minutes to be a factor. I like Julian Strother from Gonzaga. He went to the Nuggets, but same thing. Like, you got Jamal Murray in front of you. You got to find somebody to replace the Bruce Brown minutes, and that's probably going to be our guy Christian Brown.
Christian Brown,
So
yep.
so I mean, there's a lot of guys that, like I said, they'll have 8-year careers. Some a little longer than that, but just not their rookie year because they went to teams that were already established. Or
It's gonna be a lot. A lot of these teams probably drafted the wrong players simply because they were on the clock.
yeah, or they just drafted the best available.
and they're gonna send guys to the G League, or they're gonna make some crazy trade to get 4 or 5 second round picks for the next 8 years. That
Yeah,
they
because maybe
most
because
of the
maybe
or most of the staff won't be there. The GM would definitely be fired if you're
well,
like
yeah, like maybe if you're Atlanta, you just paid DeJounte, you run it back mid-season, because they're the Mid-Atlanta Hawks, and they're sitting there at say 19-22. Maybe you do trade Trey Young at that point, and then maybe one of these guys can get in the lineup or whatever because you're letting it go anyway. But there's also talk that Atlanta's going to trade for Siakam, so I don't know what's going on. Like apparently the Siakam sweepstakes are down to Atlanta and Indiana, and I'm just like, I don't know. Like, so
I'm not I don't know about that one unless they can get a real good deal. I'm
right.
not sure exactly what he gives you, but I guess I mean if you can get a veteran in there, because there is, like I said, there is a gap between the top teams, you know, reportedly that we think in the NBA. A lot of them are old. I think Memphis is probably the best young team, but their best player suspended for a third of the
Oh,
season.
and speaking of rookie, sorry, it just hit me.
Yeah,
Speaking of rookie of the year, I brought his name up earlier. Sasha Kimbikov, EuroLeague MVP.
the
You
guy's going to
know,
Sacramento.
yeah. So
He has to get Keegan Murray,
Harrison Barnes.
DeAndre Fox, Harrison Barnes, Demonte Sabonis. Those guys are getting you 80 points. Your
Mhm.
that's your 80-point group.
Hey, all it takes is for Harrison Barnes to turn back into 2016 Finals Harrison Barnes.
Listen, I don't think he's been like that since.
you
That was a strange game for someone to miss that many wide open shots.
and so yeah, we'll see. You know, I'm still shocked at some of these teams though. Like Sacramento, everybody see this is why you gotta wait till you judge because everybody said, why did Sacramento bring Harrison Barnes back? And we saw he got 18 million, and then we saw what Kuzma got. You know what I'm saying? Then we saw what Draymond got, and that's why Harrison Barnes is back. And there is something to continuity. There is something to, you
It's a
know,
real thing. Like you
yeah,
really need it.
yeah. Like you don't need to make a trade right away. Like you could build something. Because I mean, like if Sacramento plays Golden State this year in the playoffs, should Sacramento feel they can't beat them?
Oh, they're definitely going to beat them this year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like,
They're a year older and they're in their late 30s. You guys are a year older. You're 26.
yeah, you know what I mean. You
You
knock
should
out
beat
go.
them.
You beat Golden State, and then like let the chips fall where they may at that point. It's still progress.
Golden State's going to have a tough year. I think they're going to be on par with my Phoenix uh, record
Like a
prediction,
first round exit too,
like
potentially
40, 45, and like
45 and 37.
37, somewhere in that range. I think they're going to be a little bit more mid.
Well, it just depends. It depends on what Memphis does, because the 25 games without Ja, they've been good without Ja these last couple of years, but they also had Tyus Jones, holding it down. It's going to look a little different with Marcus Smart. They had Dylan Brooks for all the criticism that I give him. He fit on that team. I think, they get their big men back.
Yeah, it's
So,
odd that they didn't bring him back. Like he must have really been a problem.
so
It must have
maybe
been brewing.
if Memphis can go 17-8 without Ja, 16-9, then yes. But if they're sitting around say 14-11, they might start too far behind, to make up that ground to get back to like a 3 seed or 2 seed as they were this year.
Yeah, they might have a bit of a setback, but I think that
But they might
I
be the team you don't want to play once the playoffs get around.
because they'll be fully on locked in. You'll have 25 games of development for whoever else you bring in to supplement Ja, and then you'll have your Marcus Smart with the intelligent intensity, maybe somebody gets to Ja and they, he kind of gets his entourage situation squared away
Well,
with
see,
with his people,
well,
as
see
far as his
against the
agents,
Lakers.
lawyers, managers, friends, parents. Maybe he takes that time. So because if he gets out of his own way in that regard, it's a wrap. Like like you can't guard him.
Well,
Like no one can
Marcus.
stay in front of him.
Well, Marcus Smart also adds another element, like from the standpoint, like I said something along the lines of like they replaced Dylan Brooks with Dylan Brooks, but Marcus Smart can run point. So like during the playoffs against the Lakers, Luke Kennard, one of the best shooters in the league, was basically unplayable because of his defense and his lack of ability to penetrate and create. But now, if you got to take Ja out for whatever reason, foul trouble, get him a quick, 2-3 minute rest, you could put Kennard in there next to Marcus Smart.
And just let him fire off.
Yeah, just let him do it. Let him do his thing. Let him show Grady Dick how to Grady Dick.
Let him cook. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
But yeah, I think Grady Dick, like if Toronto makes these moves, that's probably that plus 5,500 is probably like the furthest down the list that I would be willing to bet.
Mhm.
Just because everybody else is teamed up. Like everyone else is booed up with another guy on their team on the list. Like
And,
Whitmore and Thompson,
and then
George and Hendricks.
quick, quick,
A lot of guys like that.
quick question before we get out of here. Uh, has Masai Ujiri just fallen from grace? Like, did Kawhi basically give him more than he is?
They they fired Dwayne Casey after he won Coach of the Year
Mm-hmm.
because they couldn't beat LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
No one beat him for 8 years.
Like, they probably still win that title with Kawhi with Dwayne Casey.
Yes. So it's just a matter of it's like I think what happens is you make the move because the move was available. And recent years has been worked out. The mercenary kind of move has been working out for players. The Lakers did it with Anthony Davis. Toronto did it with Kawhi Leonard. Uh, then I think Boston's hoping it works out with Porzingis. Just get that guy in that is like, listen, this is the piece that we need to add to this team that's already championship contenders. Because it seems like the championship teams are getting better trade like opportunities. Like the Clippers, James Harden wants to go to the Clippers. So granted, if they have some rookie pieces, they'll be able to ship those off to Philly. Dame Lillard wants to go to Miami. So even it's like the rich are getting richer.
Mm-hmm.
So Kawhi did that for Masai Ujiri, and then everybody else is kind of caught up. Like people just catch up. Like Boston's got their team together, and they played around with the free agent thing. They played around with potentially trying to get Kevin Durant and then Anthony Davis. They was in talks with trying to get Anthony Davis, and then Anthony Davis said I wouldn't resign. So
Mm-hmm.
Boston just stood pat and just kept their team together, and they played it out. They kept going to Eastern Conference Finals, and they kept losing to LeBron. And they moved Rozier, they moved a couple of pieces, but they kept Tatum, kept Jalen
Mm-hmm.
Brown, kept Marcus Smart, Brad Stevens. Even though he got removed from the bench, they kept him in the building. They got rid of Danny Ainge because they probably was like that's probably was holding them back. But they kept it, they kept it tight. So it was like, okay, we can make this run back. Toronto has had a couple of bad years, and then they're just blowing up too much stuff all at once. They're going to end up being like Detroit or Orlando with these other teams because the NBA does not have a worst to first trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
It's not set up that way. The NFL, if you're a bad team, then you play a bad team schedule the following year.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a chance to go from 7-10 to 10-7 because, like for instance, the Falcons are probably going to play. I think they were third. They might have been fourth in the division, so they're going to play a favorable schedule. They're
Mm-hmm.
gonna play a team like the Jets, who are fourth in their division. So it's like you're gonna get an opportunity to turn around your team, and then you only get you get 7 draft picks, undrafted rookies, so forth and so on. But you get to pick first, like you get to pick, the top talent. So the NFL gives you that opportunity, and the way they set up their contracts, it gives you an opportunity to go from worst to first. The NBA, their contracts are so, I'm gonna use the word bad because they're very pro player,
Yeah, I
but
mean they're all guaranteed.
they're guaranteed, but they hurt the team because the way they pay out. Like I talked about this before. Dame Lillard's extension, he has $213 million left on it. 116 million of that is in 2 years from now. So it's like he's getting like 40. I think he's getting 44, 46, and then
60.
53 and
Yeah.
60.
Yeah.
It was like, so in 4 years, when he's 3 or 4 years older, you're going to be giving him $60 million. That's if he opts in, like stays with it. He can opt out and probably get more.
Well,
But more likely, he'll
but
stay
that's
with it.
why I understand why Portland doesn't want Hero because Hero already got his extension, and going to take up X amount percentage of the cap. But then you also already have Shaden Sharp, Anthony Simons, Scoot, so like so you need that third team if he's
You
going to
can't run
be in
out
the
there with a
deal.
bunch of 6'5" guys.
Yeah, you know what I
Like his
mean?
lineup of depth, because
And Hero got those T-Rex arms and like so now you're like I don't know, like there's not a team that's trying to trade for Dame because I guess his
his
agent
agent
made
put the
sure of
word out.
that. But you need Portland needs like a big man or like a dude that's bigger than Jeremy Grant, or something like that, for to
They
sweeten
probably
the
should.
deal.
They probably should have called Phoenix before Washington did, and put a Dame DeAndre Ayton situation together, and then still drafted Scoot Henderson. If
Mm-hmm.
they would have done that, then Bradley Bill would be going to Miami,
Mm-hmm.
and Dame would be going to Phoenix. And like you were like, oh, we don't want him in the Western Conference. Who cares? Strip as much talent as you can get from Phoenix in that trade. So you get DeAndre Ayton, couple of draft picks.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Yep. So yeah, there you go. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Sports Reports is ordered. Coming at you during these dog days of summer. Baseball. Just had the home run derby and all that.
All Star game.
The
I
All
still don't
Star
like the
game.
fact that the All Star game determines home field advantage for the World Series. That's just
I kind of like it.
it's
Like
bonkers.
going off of your play-in thing. That's why I like it because I just feel like it adds the effort and it adds the like pride to the conference or the
But I think
you
baseball
know
players, I think they still would try to hit home runs, and they still would try to strike guys out
yeah
because
yeah
like you you're not gonna. The reason, the logic behind the NBA All Star game, especially the NFL Pro Bowl, is like you don't want to get hurt in this because of its
hmm
contact.
right
I think the NBA game they can play a little tougher because I know that those runs we see on people's Instagrams when they're playing at like Lifetime Fitness or
hey
whatever in
we
New
saw
York.
somebody get a broken nose.
I mean, shit happens. Just don't throw it high and tight. Just don't throw them inside.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so like I mean, I get it. You have to do something, and that was the thing that worked for them. But their All Star game scores like 3-2, 2-1. It's
hmm
like you got the best hitters in your league, and the pitchers are just killing them.
right
That was delicious.
so yeah, before we get out of here though, programming note, Mr. 25 is going to be out of the country, starting next week.
Celebrating,
Yeah,
celebrating his anniversary,
8 year
celebrating love.
anniversary, like got the whiz taking her out of the country for the first time, so I'll be gone, but Mr. Logical got you covered. He gonna be coming at you. I might still get you some 2-5 dailies from my phone,
Man, you better enjoy your vacation.
saying, hey man, gotta give the people what they want, right? What I'm saying? So, but America, we love you. Thank you for the support. Like, review, subscribe. It's free. And on that note, Mr. Logical, gonna take us out of here.
Yeah, like I said, haters need hobbies. Know what I'm saying? Haters need hobbies. Hashtag haters need hobbies. That's all me. If you see it anywhere else, they stole it from me. Like I said, S. Morgana Clothing Brand. Shout out your friends. Be nice to your friends. Be nice to your people. Be nice to your neighbors. People need to be nice. Enjoy yourself. Shout out to Beyonce. The concert was incredible. I saw that. It was legit. It was like that. Like everybody else, just if you can't do what Beyonce does, don't even have a concert.
Yeah, you know what I'm
Shut it down.
saying? Like
Blue Ivy was out there. Shut it down.
So what you're saying is that Beyonce is irreplaceable. I'm 2-5, y'all. I'm here all day. I'm here all day, y'all.
All right, thank everybody for listening. Remember, like, share, subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your grandma, tell your grandpa. I'm pretty sure he likes the way we talk. Yep. So let's get to it.
Real talk with Ray Jean. You know what I'm saying? Shout out. Sorry, Chris. I'm not picking on the Mets. It just
shout
is
out my
what
man,
it is.
Chris, man. Shout out Chris.
Chris Brigado. It is what it is. We love you, bro. It is what it is. Peace.